A big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. For all those who follow the advertising marketing space, the advertising industry per se is going through a bit of experimentation when it comes to models. Every holding company worth its salt is trying a different model. But today we're here to talk about Omnicom. Omnicom, for the uninitiated, is one of the world's largest and most creative holding company. In India, they operate via 3 creative agencies, that is TBWA, DDB, and BBDO. What's happened in India is very interesting. The DDB CEO, Aditya Kanthy, who's actually a friend of mine, which spans for over 20 years now, has been elevated to something being called the Omnicom Advertising Services, which actually is basically an umbrella structure which brings in together all the 3 creative agencies that are under the Omnicom stable. What was the trigger? What are they trying to do in India? And how will Omnicom kind of get into the 4th gear in India under Aditya's very able leadership is what we're here to discuss today. Thank you so much, Aditya, for joining us right here in the studio.
Thank you very much for having me, Sonali. Pleasure to meet you again.
First up, many, many congratulations. I've always maintained that you had a meteoric rise within the industry, despite not, changing agencies, changing holding companies. And, I think the youngest so-called leader on top, and now, of course, also the chief of the Omnicom Advertising Services. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Maybe there is, there is something in sticking on to a particular company and rising up the ranks.
As long as it's a good one and one that's successful and growing. And with a little bit of luck, if you're surrounded by good people and good teams and great clients, then this is another way of doing it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
In our industry.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Aditya, let's just deep dive into, this whole trigger for Omnicom Advertising Services. The industry heard about it. There are lots of questions, theories, speculations on why this was done. So I'd like to hear it from the horse's mouth. What was the trigger?
There are a bunch of things here, and it's and I'll start with an important part of your introduction, which was of Omnicom as a holding group being the most creative holding group in the world. I think that's a really important starting point of this discussion, which is that the route to market continues to be the strong, independent creative agencies and their reputations. As you know now, for many decades, BBDO, TBW, and DDB have harnessed and grown a reputation for doing the best work in the world consistently. I think that is the foundation on which we are building a structure. This structure is designed to be able to make that capability available to clients within these 3 operating networks in a more effective and efficient way. It's also designed to strengthen the relationship between the creative agencies and Omnicom Media Group, right? Which is a terrific and long-standing holding group structure supporting OMD, PhD, and arts and sciences. And the success of that model at Omnicom for 2 to 3 decades now is one of the reasons why from a domestic market perspective in India, and with all of the growth that is happening here and that is expected in the near future, this is our strategy to strengthen our hand and to be able to bring world-class future-facing capabilities to our clients here locally. But there's another aspect of this that is interesting, which has to do with the opportunity around creative talent in India, serving a global market. And the role for Omnicom as a holding group in being able to create that bridge, right, between the demand for creative services in international markets and the supply of great creative talent here to fulfill that. And John, in his last 2 earnings calls, has underlined his optimism and his belief and his bet on India to be able to achieve that outcome as well. And I think what you're seeing in the form of Omnicom Advertising Services is a doubling down on those 2 opportunities, a stronger play for us to compete and win in the local market as a network, but also to be able to bring the best of the globe into India and the best of India out into the world.
Okay, let me just unravel what you just said, and I'd like to first talk about the whole India becoming a hub for creative services, right?
Yeah.
That whole global delivery system that you just talked about.
Yeah.
Explain to me what you mean by that, how it will pan out. Are we looking at a lot of projects which are requiring a lot of Omnicom arms across the globe to come together as a special vehicle for those projects, for a client, like we've seen several cases in the past?
Yeah.
Is that what's happening? Will India hence become one of the key creative services hubs? Just break that down for me and, of course, my audience.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The form it will take will depend on the nature of the need. It could happen on projects and solutions designed around a specific client, but it'll also, in all likelihood, happen around the existing agency networks. And that is the preferred model for this to work right now. So let me. I think it's easy to understand when you see this in other industries, right? The technology business, the media business, even consulting, we have a precedent of India delivering on what you would call a kind of a distributed model, where part of the work is done on site in a location where that client or that agency resides, and part of it is done off location, offshore, in a location or a market which has the talent to be able to do that work.
Sure.
And we've seen that model built very successfully by the tech majors. And we've also seen it done and tested actually quite effectively in our business around media. And that kind of a model, a distributed model, should be possible in more parts of our value chain. It's been done to some extent on digital work already, on web development and design, in those kind of areas. Our bet over the next 5 or 10 years is to make that happen on creative services. And it will be an exciting journey because we're opening up for talent in India 3 great agency networks, and a holding company that has a reputation for being the most creative in the world.
Sure.
And I think that journey, which we are seeing perhaps in feature film and the world of animation to some extent, is a full-blown opportunity in creative services that we think is still open and there for the taking, and we want to lead that.
Great. A couple of rejoinders there, just for my understanding. Now, when you say that the ambition for the next 5 to 10 years is to ensure that India becomes a creative services hub, right? My question is that going to be an independent kind of setup, or is it going to be cherry-picked from the 3 current creative agencies that are housed under Omnicom, or is that going to be a completely separate entity?
It's a completely separate entity. These will be housed in Omnicom campuses.
Okay.
We've already announced them in Gurgaon, in Chennai, in Hyderabad, and in Bangalore. They are designed and built to serve a different need.
Okay.
But they will be connected to the local agency networks because the demand is ultimately met through DDB, BBDO, and TBWA.
Got it.
And the standard of work that needs to get done, the understanding of that business and the industry rests in the individual agency networks. And I think that connection between the Omnicom local agencies and the Omnicom global delivery is an important part of the equation to ensure that there is a standard of creative excellence in delivery that meets Omnicom's very high standard and the standards that our clients expect of us in these international markets as well. So the way this will work is by creating a talent engine that is bigger than the one that currently exists in just the local agencies, right? It has to be a separate kind of push because the scale of that demand and that setup is of a different order, and it requires, as we're doing, a level of investment that matches that.
Yeah. So I'm glad somebody's taking a step to say that, okay, we will be a creative powerhouse for the world. Yeah. I'm just trying to understand how that's going to play out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In terms of ideas, because I'm assuming most of them will be Indians.
Yeah.
right, housed in that.
Yeah, let me try and give you an insight from a conversation I had with our colleagues at Omnicom Global Delivery, which reframed this for me a little bit.
Okay.
If we start to call it distributed delivery rather than outsourcing,
okay,
I think you see it differently, which is that this is not about work that has to be done there now being done,
because it's cheaper.
Because it's cheaper. No, it's about finding ways where teams can collaborate across geographies more efficiently. And a good reference point is the consulting firms, right? Where intellectually more demanding work, work that requires a level of thinking and knowledge and expertise and craft, in the case of consulting firms, in the case of graphic design companies, is being done out of India. Sure. And that work is work that is upstream. That work is work that requires a sensibility which is global, where you have teams working together across geographies to deliver an output. And the thing that I think gives us confidence is that the local agencies in India, the really good ones, have been doing this for international markets as well. So it's not like there is no precedent. And the clients overseas and the creative agencies overseas know that. And I think we've just got, it's a question of being able to organize ourselves. Or organize ourselves and to commit to that opportunity in a way that is meaningful and serious.
Okay, fair enough. It's very heartening to hear that, and we'll see how this plays out. I think it's a lot of learning for the industry as well. But now let's talk about, John Wren's comment on India being very important, and the fact that now you've got this Omnicom Advertising Services, you're at the helm. I do have to say, if I have to compare Omnicom versus, let's say, a WPP, Publicis, and even a Havas, I would say, which is a smaller giant, but seeming to be very aggressive in the market. Omnicom has always seemed a bit lackadaisical in India. You know what I mean? Like, in the sense that, yes, we're here, but not going all guns, right? It's always been WPP, Publicis, their leaders have come down. You have this great front-facing, you know what I mean? But there's always been a critique, even when Madhukar, your predecessor was on, the question was always that why is Omnicom so relaxed in the India market?
Let me try and answer this question to you by giving you a perspective on how Omnicom has historically seen itself. And
firstly, would you agree with this criticism?
No, not at all.
Oh, you don't agree?
Not at all. Okay. I think there's a philosophical difference in the way in which different holding companies approach their role. Omnicom's success has been built on strong individual agency networks.
Fair enough.
It is the reason why we're perhaps the only holding group in the world that can boast of creative agencies of the stature of BBDO, TBWA, and DDB, consistently over 40 years. And that, for me, is the important distinction between Omnicom's approach and some of the other holding groups, that we have always been about building world-class agencies and supporting the growth of world-class agencies and doing what is required for clients and for the talent in these agencies and almost serving the needs of those entities, right? And that can be done without making a lot of noise. I would reckon that Omnicom's done this over 40 years better than most holding groups in the world. And the performance, whichever way you want to see it, as a business, in terms of our reputation at accepted benchmarks of an industry standard, at Cannes, for example.
Sure.
The numbers are there for us to see. Omnicom, as recently as the latest edition of Cannes, was the holding group network of the year.
Yeah, there's no question about Omnicom's force.
That's it. And I think
my point was only the India market.
No, but I think
have you been aggressive enough in India?
I believe we have. My journey here as part of Mudra and our acquisition into the DDB network, and the fact that Omnicom made that investment to bring Mudra into its fold,
Sure.
tells you everything you need to know. And 10 years since the acquisition, Mudra continues to be, unlike some of the other stories that you may have seen in our industry, continues to be a thriving company and a gem in Omnicom's crown. And I think that approach, a deliberate, a strategic, effective, principled approach to the Indian market is what I believe has made Omnicom successful here. You can see that in the reputations of the DDB Mudra Group, of BBDO and TBWA. You can see that in the success of Omnicom Media Group in India as well. And it's a foundation that we will keep building on.
Sure. Aditya, I'm curious to understand the reporting model now. I'm asking this because now if you are the CEO of Omnicom Advertising Services and you have veterans like Josie Paul and Govind Pandey, and you know, the third one is yourself, right? All were reporting into you, and I believe OMG, which is Omnicom the Media Group, will be your ally. So Karthik will be your partner, right, in this entire new kind of force that you are attempting. How will this reporting work? Because if suddenly, as an agency head, I'm reporting into either Asia or directly into the CCO, I'm now reporting into Aditya Kanthy, who's my boss. How's that working out?
Omnicom Media Group has shown us that way for years, very effectively, right?
Yeah.
This model hinges on a holding group level approach, which is designed to make the individual agency network stronger. And yet, like we have seen with OMD and PhD and Arts and Sciences, there is more than enough room because the belief is that we are building to support the individual cultures and the entities and the strengths of the three networks. That line of connection into the global networks will continue, as it has been with the Omnicom Media Group for many years, with OMD and PhD and Arts and Sciences. So Josie and Govind see that. I see it as a long-term DDB Mudra veteran. And I think all of us have embraced that opportunity with the knowledge and the belief that all of the weaponry and the armory that is available within Omnicom, on the ground here in India and across the world, and our partnership with Omnicom Media Group will make our individual agencies stronger. It will make TBWA in India a stronger force to reckon with. It will make BBDO in India a stronger force to reckon with. And it will make DDB Mudra Group in India a stronger force to reckon with. And with that understanding and that approach and the very clear belief in the strengths of these individual agency networks, I think the perspective and the lens through which we see the structure changes completely. And there's lots to be excited about for everyone who's working at each of these individual agency networks in the context of what we can do as Omnicom in this market.
So would you continue to hold both designations? Would you continue to hold CEO of DDB and be the CEO of Omnicom Advertising Services? Because, I mean, I know you're going to give me a big spiel about how it's for the greater good of Omnicom, but hey, if you're going to be the CEO of DDB, people will think you're just, you're going to be biased.
Yes, you're right about that.
Thank you.
You might think of it that way. We've just announced the structure, right? And we're working through our plans and the operating structure that we need to follow. I am the CEO of Omnicom Advertising Services. At this point, I'm working through the structure that we are going to take into 24 for the DDB Mudra Group. Remember, at DDB Mudra, we are a network of agencies as well, right? With DDB Mudra, 22 Feet Tribal, and Mudra Max, and Interbrand as well. So the principle always is to design structures that are light, client-friendly, and people-friendly. And when we make a decision on the operating structure for Omnicom Advertising Services, we believe there is enough talent within the DDB Mudra Group across DDB, 22 Feet, Interbrand, and Mudra Max to be able to continue to do that work without my having to worry so much about the conflict, right? I am very clear. The incumbents at DDB Mudra Group are very clear. John Wren is very clear. Josie, Govind, the folks at TBWA, BBDO, and the international networks that we are a part of are all very clear about the fact that my role is an Omnicom Advertising Services level role. And that the focus is going to be on supporting each of the three agency networks in a way that we have a stronger Omnicom group play, right? And I think it's a little bit early for me to get into the details of what the plans for the DDB Mudra Group would be.
Sure.
But hopefully in my answer, you're seeing an indication of the approach, which is to keep as much focus on the individual agencies and the clients, and our role as a holding group always,
sure.
As has been well established and tried and tested in across the world and in India, of the facilitation of the success of individual networks and doing the best that we can for clients. And that's the same spirit in which we will operate Omnicom Advertising Services in India as well.
Sure. If I had to ask you, assume I'm a client, right? What's in it for me? I am looking to get an agency who is creatively reputed and does some outstanding work for me, so I move the needle in the market. That's my output. And most CEOs in India, if you talk to them, they don't give a damn about awards. They've made that very categorical statement saying, hey, we want our product to move in the market, which is why we need advertising services. We are not interested in going and getting an award on stage. So if that is how people are looking at it, and this is apart from your whole global delivery system, that I totally get. That's a new model. I understand that beast you're looking at. I'm talking about what's in it for me as an Indian CEO or an Indian CMO. Whether I'm working with, I'd like to work with either BBDO or TBWA or DDB. So what is Omnicom Advertising Services going to do to me? Or where is it going to give me that extra impetus?
It's a great question. And there are two parts of that discussion, both of which I think are really important. I'm going to address both. The client after client, in conversation after conversation, regardless of the model that they choose to work with, right? Some want to work with a holding group, some want to work with individual agencies, some want to do the work, a large bulk of the work with one partner, some are comfortable with a more fragmented ecosystem, but client after client is looking for an answer on a fuller picture of the marketing funnel.
Sure.
That might even happen through the individual agency.
Okay.
It might happen through TBWA, it might happen through BBDO, it might happen through DDB Mudra Group. But there is an ask for that fuller view. And that fuller view, we believe, can be given through an Omnicom lens, because we've got that capability, right, of being able to advise clients and partner clients in that journey, right through the funnel, from media to precision marketing to experience design, right, and what have you. I think there's real value in that conversation for clients at a holding group level. And I think when you go to clients with the confidence of the reputations of these three individual networks established over 40 years, and Omnicom's reputation across markets of having done this consistently through the agency networks in market after market, it's a proposition that clients are excited about and are looking forward to. And in our corridors in marketing organizations, it's an unmet need. And an unanswered one. And I think the answers there partly lie with the conversations at a holding group level. But I do want to come to your observation around clients and their approach to awards. I was struck, as we were discussing earlier, about the number of clients we're seeing at Cannes as well. So I wouldn't dismiss it outright. I think there are lots of clients and client companies that are recognizing and are very serious about the power of creatively brilliant work in driving their business forward, in driving their brands forward, and as a lever for disproportionate growth. We mustn't take that for granted as an industry, and we mustn't forget that basic fundamental value that our business gives to brands and clients. The consistent, brilliant, disciplined application of creativity to brands and businesses works.
Well, on that note, Aditya, thank you so much for being so patient with my questions and taking time to unpack and unravel them. But here's all the very best for this new innings, this new model, and hopefully we'll see a lot of exciting things coming from India, especially, I'm interested to see how your global delivery system, creative system is going to pan out. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Sonali.
Thank you.